Welcome and hello from the I/O Connect in Berlin, live. I am here with three of my closest Angular buddies, and we want to do a kind of conversation about Angular, about AI a little bit. But before we start, I would like to maybe start with an introduction. I guess most of you know already these people, but still, we would start with Marko.
Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Marko Stanimirovic. I come from Belarus, from Serbia. I'm a co-maintainer of NgRx, GD in Angular, and a co-organizer of NG Belarus conference. And currently I'm working as a front-end tech lead at a company called BlinkOps.
I'm Manfred Steyer. I'm a trainer and developer for Angular. And I and my team at Angular Architects focus on Angular in the enterprise. We do trainings, workshops, reviews.
And I'm Younes Jaaidi. I'm a software cook, so I help teams through training and coaching to find the right ingredients for cooking their apps, how much testing, not too much here, a little bit more there, and how that fits with your AI-assisted development workflow. And I work for myself by selling workshops and a video course and coaching teams like yours, maybe.
Great. Yeah, so maybe the first question or the discussion point that I have, as I said, it should be very informal. We are now in Angular 22. We see signal forms, resources are actually stable. So for me, the general question is, how do we see Angular? Would we say it's now already in a status where we say it's fully signalized? Is there something which we would say, yeah, it's still missing, so we still have to rely on the old stuff in a few things? And what do you think in general about the state of Angular at the moment?
So regarding signal integration, I mean, obviously we're missing the integration for Angular router.
Yeah.
And not only for signals, but also for resources.
But would you feel comfortable to say, I can now fully work with signals, or would you still say it's like half-baked or something?
It's not half-baked. It's maybe now we are on, I would say, without router on 80%.
Mm-hmm. Router, what would you imagine in this case?
So instead of observables, yes, to have signals.
Yes. Okay.
To have support for resources.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future also support for loading on the server side with resources, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I expect.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the router is a big thing, but even without the router, I guess we can use it quite nicely for implementing reactive components, a reactive data flow from the store to the components, to the form and backwards. One tiny thing I'm looking forward in one of the next versions, very likely the next minor version, is the improved linkedSignal that allows us to write back, for instance, to a signal store. Because, yeah, this was a bit of a missing link for me. Of course, we can always use effects for this, but yeah, now we have a better way, or we will soon become or get a better way for writing stuff back that has been written into a computed signal.
Yeah, just one fun fact regarding the linked signal with set option that Manfred mentioned. So actually community created a new version of Signal called delegated signal, right? And we wanted to introduce it as a part of the NgRx, and that's actually the linked signal with this option to set state back. So we actually created the RFC in NgRx. We created a PR, merged the PR, wanted to release it in version 22, and then saw the PR from Angular. So, but yeah, I mean, even better. To have it in a core framework.
Yeah, if it's natively supported.
Yep.
Yes.
There are two things I was thinking of. The first one about the router is I wish we could have non-blocking resolvers with resources so that the page renders even though the data is not there and your resource is pending. So you get like a better integration of that, not so that the router is not blocked until you get the data.
But would we need resolvers in that case? I mean, to have non-blocking page loading. Is it a use case for resolvers?
I think it would be, but would it have the same shape? I don't know. I would love like something more type safe that ends up as inputs or something through the router. Like,
yeah, type safety definitely.
Yes, yes, it's crucial because it's a no-go.
This is what Angular router is missing.
is missing. Yeah.
Which is understandable, in my opinion, because at the time when Angular was made, TypeScript was not on a level where it is nowadays.
Oh, there are workarounds, but it's you have to think of it in terms of architecture, in terms of providing your own resolver and the injector at the same place, which could be type 2. And about the story of signals, well, I think it's what's missing is not just the APIs. It's more of like the public story, like for instance, like the delegate signal. Like it should have been nice if we knew that it's the setter is coming at its version, so that the third-party users in the community could wait for that, or say, oh, I'm not going to make my own thing, I'm going to wait. So that's one of the things I'd say. The other thing is the mutations, for example, is a good example of, I mean, I'm for incremental delivery of stuff. So that's something I loved about signals, like how it came very incrementally from the core to the surface. It's amazing. But the moment you make resource state, it's experimental, then it became stable. But during all that time, we don't have mutations. I think it would have been nice to have even experimental mutations that just die or something, or get breaking changes, to avoid like all the confusion. People are saying like, how do I make a mutation with resource? And so I think that's one of the stories. For me, that's one of the things that I wish could have been done differently. It's not easy. I don't have a solution for that, but I think that was one of the missing things.
So I was actually looking for the mutation keyword, because for me, that's really at the moment where people might get a little bit confused. They see the resources. I guess most of them know that they are not meant to mutate state, but they still ask, should we now use the HTTP client, like in the old days, which means RxJS? And even in the signal forms, also in the postings, you see people really asking, there is this action in the submission, which wants to have a promise. I am not used to a promise anymore. Why is it not expecting an observable? So what do I do now? So I think mutation is one big thing that it's really missing.
Yeah, we for sure need it, because currently, even though you can write back data with an HTTP client, the story is not symmetric, isn't it? Yes. We have resources and we don't have a counterpart for writing it back at the same level.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but for example, of course it's different topic, but I would have loved mutations before signal forms. What about you?
Yeah, me too. It would have been this completion of HTTP communication and not like opening a new chapter.
But the good message is, and I think we can also mention this, there are some community solutions for this.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why what I love about the whole story is how they started with the building blocks. So at the end, you can build everything. You can even almost come up with your own router integration if you want. So we have the building blocks. So that's pretty nice. And
yeah, although some of them are a bit limited.
Yeah,
right? There are some limits.
There are some limits, yeah, that's true.
So I think we can kind of say everything's good so far, but maybe we get a little bit more of roadmap, or maybe like get an idea that these and these things still are missing, like data support and migration, the mutation, not the migration, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, the NgRx toolkit, if I can also make a promotion for that also has a working mutation already available.
Yeah. I think, the way I see it should be like, we should have like a map of the big picture that the team has, and some black boxes like, oh, we don't have the exact solution right now, but expect us to work on it soon.
Yeah, that would be great to have like a roadmap, because in that case, we would, if Angular team says, for example, we will never introduce a mutation API, then we can consider introducing as a part of the NgRx.
Exactly.
Yes.
But right now, we don't know what's going to happen if we introduce it and then have to quickly deprecate it. That would be a problem.
Yes. And then there's also one thing which is related to this is in the story, we still have to, I think, to remind people that RxJS still deserves its place, because the way Pavel from the Angular team once said, and he doesn't remember it, but he said RxJS islands, and it just clicked for me. Okay. We need RxJS islands in your app. Like sometimes you have like this very complex time-related logic, and then I want to shift my mental model from signals to time-related stuff, and then I'm in the island of RxJS. I don't know what a signal is. I'm doing all my time-related logic with RxJS, and then I'm back to the mental model of signals, and that's still a good fit, in my opinion, for RxJS many times.
And in the Signal store, we have the Rx method for that, where you only need to know the pipe operators and you are not exposed to the observable to the outside. And Ing extension also has something like with from derived. You can also do this thing. So
This is also how it works in other communities, where you start without RxJS, with something that is baked in. And if you reach a point where RxJS shines, and as you say, very likely it's something time-related, because this is not covered by signals by intention to make them simpler, they switch very likely to RxJS, because in those cases, I don't know a better library than RxJS.
yes.
And it's interestingly, I always felt that RxJS was used too much in Angular and not enough in other frameworks. Like I've been working with some React teams, and we introduced a lot of RxJS for like some specific time and stuff, where otherwise it's lots of spaghetti code. So I think RxJS deserves to be known from other communities, and we should use it a bit less now that we have signals in Angular. So it's just like the right balance to find.
Okay. Then maybe let's come to the other topic, because time's running short. AI. So actually I prepared two questions, but I think I'm just going to shorten it. How does it affect us? So we are all kind of in different, also shared industries. So a few of us are in consulting, where people bought our workshops. Some of us are doing open source projects, like actually all of us. And also like common software development in a company. So these are different aspects. And how do you think, what are the changes that AI brings?
Nobody wants to start because it's going to be 2 hours. It's great.
Perhaps a very short point of view. For me, there are two areas where AI will change a lot. The one area is the development process itself, not necessarily only writing code, but the entire process, the entire software development life cycle. And the other area is that sooner or later, we need to put AI capabilities into our applications. Because I guess with this, we can also help other fields to automate their work. Currently, we seem to be an early adopter. Currently, first of all, we seem to automate our own work, but the next step will be to automate the work of other industry parts.
That's true. But about the development workflow, my take is that it didn't change anything, except that things are going faster, and all the problems that we had before are now amplified, and the good things are also amplified. It's just an amplifier. For example, in the software industry, we've been fighting waterfall for decades, and most teams end up doing just what I call iterative waterfall. So they just have ceremonies every week, but at the end it's just waterfall. And now most workflows are going into like waterfall again. I'll just come up with your plan and or the specification, and of course it's gonna work. And if it doesn't work, then it's because your specification is not good enough. So this is clearly a waterfall. So we have to rethink the development workflow, but not in a different way than before. We just need like a real iterative approach, an incremental, and TDD makes sense. So you start with your test first, and then you make the test pass, and AI can help with that. So in my opinion, it's just we just have to pick like the best practices that are already there. They've been like in books like Extreme Programming Explained from Kent Beck. Everything that was written in the 90s still work, and we just have to figure that out. Another thing, well, forget about it. Your chance.
Yeah, I can just add regarding learning and workshops. I think they are still important because people still need to know software engineering. They still need to know how to code and to understand things, first of all. And because of that, I think workshops are still very important. We are still pilots. We have a co-pilot, but we are still pilots. Yeah. We should be able to understand the code that our agents are generating, to review it, to notice potential mistakes, and also in some cases to give a proper directions to our agents if they start going into a wrong way.
Exactly. And that's why I had this thing I call chartered coding, which I'll be writing more about it. And the whole thing is about steering. So you need small steps, because the moment you have a workflow where you have like long steps and you're going to review 1,000 lines, then you're going to have trouble, because first you will never revert those 1,000 lines or 10,000 lines. And because you already reviewed half and you don't want to throw away that time of reviewing. So just accept and try to iterate through that. Plus, one big difference compared to before, previously when you were coding and you were tired, well, you get tired, so you stop coding and you just leave your computer and have a break. Now, when you're reviewing, way more than before, when you're tired, you just accept the PR. So that's one of the big problems. Another problem I've observed is that I've been fighting for collective ownership in many teams. Like, a team is not a silos of individuals working on different features. Oh, let's not work on the same feature so that we don't have conflicts and stuff. Teams should have like a collective ownership of the code and a single goal. And I feel that some things can be harder to fix today because AI got it worse. My favorite example is, when you have like this conversation as a team, someone is working on something and they get stuck and they're like, hey, Marko, how does Rx method work for this feature? I want to use it like here. And then you'll be like, what are you working on? We don't need that feature today. You have to work on something else. Oh, okay, good. Thank you for that advice. And now everybody just asks the agent, so you keep drifting in your wrong direction maybe, or the good one, you don't know, and you only deliver like the whole feature at the end and like, oh, what do you think of that? Plus you have large text that is generated, and the problem is that we produce more texts than producing text for PR descriptions and stuff became cheaper than the review, than reading. So that's something that we have to be, I think, more careful about. Like, I'm going to ship this code to other people. I have to respect the other people. How are they going to perceive this PR, this code, this text, this description, etc.?
I think that's the old problem, right? Efficiency versus being effectiveness. Like I say, I can do the thing that I want very quickly, but is it the right thing?
Yes.
Because this is not something that the AI is going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. We got like a 10x productivity,
yes,
but it's not 10x efficiency of producing value.
Exactly.
One other thing I'm afraid of is, like, I've been working a lot with teams to teach them to push back. Yeah, because waterfall is, you have someone smart that comes up with specifications or requirements, then the team converts this into code. But in a more, I'd say, extreme programming way, business comes with ideas and the team says, no, we need to do it like this. And then the business is like, I want it like this. What's the technical constraint? It's this. Oh, okay. And then you need to have this discussion. You have to fight for that. Now, it got worse because it's so easy to produce the features that I'm afraid that many teams will have like just features changing all the way, because until now the whole workflow was so slow that for users, like the interface doesn't change every 5 minutes. It's every month you get like a new major feature, and now it's going to be like features all over that appear, disappear. Hence, maybe new UIs that are more AI driven. Also,
I have a funny story maybe at the end. So I was working on a prototype like a meta reducer in the NgRx store could look like, just an idea. And I was just lazy to think like in detail how would this work. So I just went to the AI and I said, look, this is what we want. And I was kind of discussing with it for almost 2 weeks, each day a few minutes, like that we make sure to cover the edge cases, that we don't leave something out and everything else. Fable came out. I gave the specification to Fable. It produced me 400 lines of code. I said, no, this can't be it. This is way too much. This is not what I wanted. And now for some reason yesterday when I landed in Berlin, I was sitting in a coffee and I had no internet, no AI, of course. And I thought, okay, maybe I just spent the time to give it on my own, like really focusing on the problem and try to think on my own. And I managed to write something like this, a prototype in 50 lines of code.
Yeah, exactly. It happened. The same thing happened to me last week, and like I believe into what is called Pareto law, and it applies to AI. Is that it takes 20% of the budget or time to satisfy your feature, 80% of your feature, and then for the last 20%, it will work a lot, it will produce lots of code. Yes. And my typical example was like I had this test case where I had like 10 tests, and 2 extra tests were like, I was like, these are edge cases, unrealistic, I should remove them. But I was like, let it do. And it produced so much code, but that was mostly trying to solve these weird edge cases that I just removed. Then I refactored the thing myself, and I kept 20% of the initial code. It was really, the numbers were there. I had 20% that I just removed of test cases that I don't need and shrink. So this is very crucial, I think, for the future, you know.
Okay, so I think we are already at the end of our slot. So then I would say, thanks for attending. It was a pleasure.
For having us. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you.
Of course. And also, of course, thanks to Google for giving us this environment.
Thank you very much.
to do.
May I add one thing? I didn't say I'm from Lyon in France, so if you visit France, don't go to Paris. Lyon is better.
All right. And with that, yeah, thanks again also for watching, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.